Hello and welcome to the Superhero Hub. I'm Sam,
Matt.
and today we are opening up.
I know, but you know that goofy. There it is. The superhero photo. There we go.
Yeah, and what page have we turned to today?
I don't remember.
The Sinister
That's
Six.
right.
Now I know it's something you wanted to do because you love ripping on the Spider-Man franchise because you are the biggest Spider-Man fan ever conceived. So you like to rip on them. So I'm just gonna give you a brief introduction, and then we'll go from there. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So the Sinister Six is a fictional group of super
Oh my god.
villains appearing in American comic books published by Marvel Comics. They are drawn from Spider-Man's list of enemies. The original incarnation of the group was organized by
I don't remember.
Doctor
Mysterio. Damn
Dot
it.
Doctor Octopus. So their first appearance was in the Spider-Man Annual issue number 1 in January 1964, and they were created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. Um, so, the original Sinister Six, after suffering 3 defeats in a row, 3 from Spider-Man, Doctor Octopus is separated from his tentacle pack. After his tentacle pack breaks free and helps Dr. Octopus get out of prison, he contracts every known supervillain that has crossed paths with Spider-Man. Only Vulture, Electro, Kraven the Hunter, the original Mysterio, and Sandman respond. I guess everyone else has got bigger things to do. As none of the members are as none of the other members are willing to relinquish the honour of killing Spider-Man themselves, they decide to challenge Spider-Man individually, with the order in which they face him determined by random drawing. The Sinister Six kidnap daily.
See, that's a fault in the plan right there. Like, if you're gonna put a super group together, attack him at the same time. That's so
Obvious,
stupid.
obviously. So they kidnap Daily Bugle secretary Betty Brand and Aunt May, holding them hostage in order to force Spider-Man to confront them. Spider-Man defeats the Sinister Six one by one, mocking their decision to battle him individually instead of a team, much how you just did. What?
Okay.
One question: are you Spider-Man?
I have a question
What?
because I don't think I've read a lot of issues of Spider-Man down the years, and I forget. I'm pretty sure I never read this. So a question I would have is, why do they kidnap Aunt May? They don't know who he is.
No, I guess they just kidnap random people. And they just
That's
happened to
convenient, isn't
kidnap
it?
Aunt May and Betty Brand. I bet they figured, oh, it's an old woman who'll be more susceptible to that. Uh,
Maybe they knew Peter Parker takes pictures of Spider-Man.
who knows? In the Amazing Spider-Man issue 334 to 339, Dr. Octopus recruits Electro, Mysterio, Stanman, and Vulture alongside the demonic Hobgoblin, since Kraven the Hunter had died at that point. As
But
pa-
Hobgoblin, that's that's fairly recent then. I mean, relatively speaking, Hobgoblin was created as a replacement for the Green Goblin, so
yeah,
that's a big gap.
Yeah, as part of his plan, so he grabs them together as part of his plan to take over the world. However, this was a trick, part of a larger plan in which Octavius alone would be the master of the world. The Sandman, who at this point in his career had reformed and was blackmailed into joining, aids Spider-Man in defeating the Sinister Six and ultimately stopping Octavius's plan to control the world. In which we move on to the Revenge of the Sinister Six in Spider-Man issue 18 to 23. Electro, Mysterio, Vulture, and Hobgoblin reunite in a bid to take revenge on Dr. Octopus. To trick Sandman into joining them, they hit his foster family with a bomb, leading them to believe Dr. Octopus had attacked them as punishment for betraying him. Sandman contacts Spider-Man and asks him to shadow the group as insurance against him being double-crossed. Dr. Octopus easily defeats the other members of the Six with his newly acquired adamantium arms. Then it zaps Sandman into with a weapon that transforms his body into glass, obviously, and beats Spider-Man. Well, when you superheat sand, it turns into glass.
I did not know that.
Oh. And beats Spider-Man nearly to death. When police surround the building, the other members of the Sinister Six agree to serve Dr. Octopus in exchange for his helping them escape. The assembled Sinister Six go off on a rampage, stealing advanced weapons and technology from several sources, including an alien dimension and a facility specializing in cybernetics. To again complete their quorum of 6, they recruit Gog. Eventually, Spider-Man... What?
Come on, man. Gog? So lame.
I don't write this stuff. Eventually, Spider-Man and several other heroes, including the Fantastic Four, Nova, the Hulk, and Solo, confront the villains as they are seizing a Hydra base to gain access to deadly, devastating weapons. Most of the members, again, are incarcerated. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, standard, isn't it? What you can do. Spider-Man doesn't really have like a no-kill rule, but typically he doesn't really kill his villains, so you lock them up and then you move on until they break out again. I do think they're going wrong recruiting Gog. Let's go Greg the Green Goblin.
And moving on to the Sinister Seven, a variation known as the Sinister Seven is formed by Hobgoblin to fight Kane. Hobgoblin's Sinister Seven consists of Beetle, Electro, Mysterio, Scorpio, Shocker, and Vulture. They eventually find Kane and a battle erupts. Obviously, Spider-Man saves Kane from being electrocuted. The two then work together and defeat the Sinister Seven, which brings us to Sandman's Sinister Six. Eventually, Sandman and the second Mysterio, being the original, had committed suicide following his fight with Daredevil, form a new version of the Sinister Six, with Venom temporarily replacing Dr. Octopus.
Imagine that would be Mac Gargan.
Could be. Yeah, I think it is. With other members consisting of Electro, the second Kraven the Hunter, and Vulture. Sandman uses the Sinister Six in order to get revenge on Dr. Octopus for turning him into glass. The Sinister Six are then defeated again, and Venom subsequently attacks the various members of the Sinister Six and nearly kills Sandman and badly injures Electro and Kraven the Hunter before he and the symbiote are briefly separated from each other. Yeah. In Marvel Knights Spider-Man, Norman Osborn is unmasked to the public as
Green Goblin.
And imprisoned. Osborn contacts a group of supervillains who also bear grudges against Spider-Man, all of whom have been financed by Osborn's fortunes for years. Eager to retaliate, the villains agree to band together and the Sinister 12 is formed. Matt Gargan, the de facto leader of the 12 while Osborn is imprisoned. He kidnaps Peter Parker's Aunt May and threatens to kill her if Spider-Man does not help Osborn escape jail.
Again, it must be the same thing that they know Peter Parker works for the Beagle taking photos, otherwise why are you kidnapping Aunt May?
Spider-Man, with the help of Black Cat, breaks Osborn out, only to be confronted by Vulture, Sandman, Electro, Chameleon, Lizard, Hydra Man, Shocker, Hammerhead, Boomerang, and Tombstone. Osborn, now in the guise of the Goblin, introduced them as the Sinister 12. Spider-Man and Black Cat are rescued by Captain America, Iron Man, Daredevil, Yellow Jacket, and the Fantastic Four. A furious Goblin rockets... Your thoughts?
It's too many. I remember reading a bit of the Sinister 12 stuff, and it's just what I didn't like about it personally. I do prefer the idea that it's six of Spider-Man's great enemies teaming up to take on him, not him recruiting the bloody Hulk to open up the fight. That's not as fun. It should be them ganging up on him.
Hmm. So you think that's ridiculous?
Yeah, I do. I think you might as well just make that an Avengers comic.
Mm. A furious goblin rockets away and kidnaps Mary Jane Watson, and Spider-Man pursues him. Spider-Man and Goblin clash upon a bridge, not the one where Gwen Stacy was killed, before you throw that in. Finally, Osborn gives a vital clue as to Aunt May's whereabouts before being knocked out into the river below. In the aftermath, Aunt May is found and saved. The rest of the Sinister 12 are subdued by heroes, unnamed, and arrested. Which brings us on to the Civil War's Sinister Six, a new version of the Sinister Six apparently bands together during the Civil War storylines. The lineup consists of Dr. Octopus, Grim Reaper, Lizard, Shocker, Trapster and Vulture. They're stopped by Captain America and the Secret Avengers off-panel and discovered, bound and subdued by S.H.I.E.L.D. Which brings us on to, in quotations, big time Sinister Six. Following the events of the Origin of Species storyline, which involves Dr. Octopus assembling Spider-Man's enemies into targeting Harry Osborn's child, who Dr. Octopus thought had some of Norman Osborn's DNA, whatever that means.
Well, it's got the Goblin formula in it.
Oh, okay.
So it's about them or not.
See, education. Only Chameleon, Electro, Mysterio, Rhino and Sandman remain with Dr. Octopus to reform the Sinister Six when the baby does not inherit Norman Osborn's DNA. Their first plot involves sending Octobots to blow up an Air Force base. This is prevented by Spider-Man, the Avengers and the Fantastic Four. So you need three groups to stop some micro Octobots.
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man and the Future Foundation stumble on a plot on a Caribbean island by the Sinister Six, which involves the use of I could give you a million guesses and you'd never guess this, which involves the use of a zombie pirate crew.
Blimey.
During the fight with the Sinister Six, Spider-Man realises that Dr. Octopus, Electro, Rhino, Sandman, that they are fighting are robots, while Mysterio and Chameleon are the only real ones present. Meanwhile, Dr. Octopus infiltrates the Baxter building to look for specific technological plans. With the adult Avengers are dealing with the eruption of Mount Etna, Tigra and the Avengers Academy students learn that Electro has broken into a French lab. Once on the scene, the students discover that Electro is accompanied by the rest of the Sinister Six. The Sinister Six overpower students, and Dr. Octopus steals a device containing self-sustaining power. Dr. Octopus and the Sinister Six later fight the Intelligentsia, where Chameleon has infiltrated the group disguised as Claw. After Intelligentsia members are defeated, the Sinister Six steal their Zero Cannon, a weapon which changes Earth's gravity field to send specific objects into space. Dr. Octopus later appears in a robot suit which would help to keep him alive. You were shaking your head there. What do you think?
Again, it's all too much. It's all too overcomplicated. They're making them be like an actual super team or super villain team rather than just a group of guys who come together to beat up Spider-Man. You know, I guess for issues of the comic book here or there, it's all right. But for what they're no spoilers, but for what they seem to be leading to with the films, even in Marvel, and they were trying to do it in the Amazing Spider-Man as well. Just keep it simple. Have them team up and beat the crap out of them. Don't do all this crap.
So
for me, anyway.
So you're opposed to getting the Fantastic Four and the Avengers involved?
Yeah. It's too much. I mean, it's a problem with a lot of comics now. It's like everything is crossover. It's all Marvel every year. They have this damn crossover that they build up and hype up and all. Inevitably it lets down because they've done too many. There's nothing special about it. What's special about the Sinister Six if they're always teaming up and do some doofy thing that one of them could probably do alone? And then what's special about it if you're dragging in the Fantastic Four and the Avengers and everyone else to help Spider-Man? What's the point in that? They're his villains.
That's why we should be writing the comics. Dr. Octopus and Mysterio coordinate the Autobots that have infiltrated the Apogee 1 space station and taken over some of the crew. When Mysterio notices some of the Autobots were disabled, Dr. Octopus orders the Autobots to finish their mission and then destroy the space station. When Spider-Man arrives on Apogee 1 space station, Dr. Octopus pushes a button that starts to move the Apogee 1 space station closer to Earth. After the space station is destroyed and the crew is evacuated by Spider-Man, the Human Torch, and John Jameson, Dr. Octopus tells the rest of the Sinister Six that his master plan is about to begin. Who knows?
Oh, of course.
Who knows what that will lead to. But stick with us. In the Ends of the Earth storyline, all of Dr. Octopus's preparations come to fruition in a plan to conquer the world. Doc Ock activates a giant antennae array called the octahedral, which in turn activates Earth-orbiting satellites he calls the Octavian lens. The lens works up to speed up the greenhouse effect, which in turn heats up the Earth. Upon hacking into televisions all over the world, Doc explains what his satellites are doing and then shuts them down. He says he can save the world at a price. At Palazzo Centaurio, an international gathering of world leaders and the planet's greatest minds meet to discuss Doc's supposed offer to save the world. The Avengers crash the assembly and Spider-Man captures Chameleon, who is at the meeting disguised as Al Gore. Spider-Man lets Chameleon go and he secretly places a spider tracer on him, which allows Spidey and the Avengers to follow Chameleon to a Mediterranean island. To the Mediterranean coast where the rest of the Sinister Six are waiting. The Six subdue the Avengers, leaving only Spider-Man standing.
Come on. What's the point in even having the Avengers then?
I know. Spidey is taken down while trying to gain control of Dr. Octopus's tentacles with his helmet. The Sinister Six then leave the area and Dr. Octopus issues his demands: control of 200 missile facilities as well as $2 billion for each members of the Sinister Six. So that'll be how much dollars?
Don't put me on the spot like that.
12 billion. In response, Spider-Man contacts Horizon Labs for help. Dr. Octopus sends Sandman to guard one of the missile facilities in the Sahara Desert. After Spider-Man, Black Widow and Silver Sable enter the facility to defeat Sandman, Dr. Octopus contacts the UN once again and orders them to kill Spider-Man in retaliation. In subsequent missile facility raids, Spider-Man and his allies manage to defeat Rhino, but they are unable to capture him because they are attacked by S.H.I.E.L.D. under the orders of the UN. Forced to flee, Spidey and his allies attempt to rally support from Earth's other heroes after Titanium Man alerts them to the fact that Octavius has been recruiting other villains. Tracking down a final facility, Spider-Man learns that Octavius has already launched all of his satellites. However, this is revealed to be a deception created by
Mysterio.
Very good. And the Chameleon. Yeah. Spider-Man defeats the Chameleon when he attempts to attack him in a Doc Ock suit of armour. Spidey and his allies then convince Mysterio to help them track down Octavius' base. When they find the base, they also find themselves pitted against the new Sinister Six in the form of the Mind Control Avengers. Despite Octavius' confidence, the heroes prevail against their mind-controlled teammates. Black Widow and Hawkeye are knocked out by Iron Man while he's still under Octavius' control. Spider-Man's new training, combined with Captain America subconsciously holding back, allows Spider-Man and Sable to defeat Spider-Woman and Captain America respectively. Finally, Mysterio uses an EMB controller to negate the Autobots controlling Thor, Iron Man and Red Hulk. Now Octobot free, the remaining three Avengers set out to take out Octavius' missiles while Spider-Man and Silver Sable confront Octavius in his base. The two are met by the Rhino, who decides to drown himself and take Sable with him in an attempt to psychologically beat Spider-Man into submission, but Spider-Man musters his strength, manages to destroy Octavius' arms and equipment, and ultimately hauls his foes away to a doctor.
I hated every minute of that.
I think that seems to be a strong storyline.
I better not see that in a movie.
I doubt it. That's a bit too busy.
Mm.
Which brings us to, as part of the Marvel Now event, the Superior Spider-Man, Dr. Octopus, and Peter Parker's body encounters a new Sinister Six consisting of Boomerang, Overdrive, Shocker, Speed Demon, Living Brain, and the female Beetle that had previously fought Captain America and Black Widow. Do you remember
Right.
that storyline?
No, I know one of them, Shocker, and he's lame.
Oh, is that your opinion? Is that
Yeah,
it? I thought you were
yeah.
about to drop something like you'd read the comic book and you were about
No,
to, but you were merely saying that the Shocker's whack.
yeah, and he's the only one of them I know.
Okay. What's the Shocker's real name?
Herman Schultz.
Very good.
Yeah, no, I got it this time. Oh, one of them anyway.
The group of villains attack Horizon Labs, but Superior Spider-Man defeats them using a power dampening field to disable their equipment. He's preparing to kill Boomerang when the still living consciousness of Peter Parker stops him. Otto gives the villains to the NYPD, New York Police Force, and EMT, Emergency Medical Treatment, upon their arrival.
New York Police Department.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Boy, you said NYP. Never mind. Carry on.
Yeah, New York Police Department, NYPD, and EMTs, Emergency Medical Treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Why you always got to put me down for, man?
Well, you said police force.
Oh dear. Oh dear. This version of the Sinister Six minus Living Brain appears in its own series, Superior Foes of Spider-Man.
Well then, how can there be the Sinister Six then if he ain't got one of them?
I don't know. The Sinister Six later assaulted Owl's base. Overdrive and Speed Demon were captured by Owl and interrogated. Beetle tried to blackmail the Owl into releasing him while covertly dialing for backup. Unimpressed, the Owl got ready to execute her when reinforcement arrives in the form of Tombstone, who was revealed to be Beetle's father. At one point, to steal valuables from Chameleon, including a portrait of Doctor Doom, the Sinister Six allied with Owl, where they expanded their group into a Sinister 16.
Oh my god.
Besides Boomerang, Beetle, Overdrive, Owl, and Speed Demon, the group consists of, get ready for some real A-listers here, Armadillo, Beast, Clown, Cyclone, Human Fly, Kangaroo, Man Mountain, Marco, Mirage, Scorcher, Shriek, Spot, and Squid.
I know Shriek, I know Spot.
Oh, the team eventually broke up after Boomerang had thoroughly screwed everyone else over, including himself, so just forget about them. Unimportant. You don't know Kangaroo or Human Fly?
Not off the top of my head, I know.
That's okay, no one else does. Superior Six. Following the deletion of Peter Parker's memories and acquiring the Raft as his new base, which he renamed Spider Island 2, the Superior Spider-Man begins to collect former Sinister Six members and store them in his underwater lab, with the implied intention to create a team as the Superior Spider-Man. First, he acquired the Sangrain that contained Sandman's consciousness. When Electro returned to Earth after being held into space by Thor, the Superior Spider-Man enlisted Thor to help defeat Electro. The Superior Spider-Man then confiscated Chameleon from S.H.I.E.L.D. custody. He then came across Mysterion, a villain dressed like Mysterio, robbing a bank. Upon defeating Mysterion, he discovered that the villain he thought was Mysterio was not Quentin Beck, but an unnamed man who bought the Mysterio gear from the Hobgoblin. Finally went up against a Vulture who seeks to get even with Superior Spider-Man for beating him up twice. The Superior Spider-Man managed to defeat Vulture.
I assume it's Adrian Toomes.
I guess so. The Superior Spider-Man debuts with mind-controlled members as a supposedly reformed Superior Six at the time when Lightmaster invades Alchemax to obtain an invention that will work in sync with his own light powers. The Superior Six ended up fighting Wrecking Crew, who were hired by Lightmaster to assist him. During the Sun Girl's widespread attack, Superior Spider-Man lost control of the Superior Six and they attacked him. Then Superior Spider-Man and Sun Girl had to defeat him. Which brings us to I know this is I know a big storyline that you're gonna love, the Sinister 66.
Oh, it's like they're trying to annoy me.
I don't know. Uh, think yourself lucky you don't have
I
to.
name all of them as well.
Who, me?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do it. But the
go on.
point is, this story pretty much finishes as it starts. So yeah, Mojo and Chameleon abduct Spider-Man and his X-Men students, which force them to star in a show which pits them against the Sinister 66. The group, which is not seen in its entirety, consists of holographic stand-ins of various
Uh,
enemies of Spider-Man, like, hold on to your hat, Beetle, Carnage, Demogoblin, Doctor Octopus, Electro Gibbon, Green Goblin, Grizzly, Hammerhead, Hobgoblin, Jackal, Jack-o'-lantern, Kingpin, Craven the Hunter, Lizard, Morbius the Living Vampire, Mysterio, Puma, Rhino, Ringer, Sandman, Scorpion, Shocker, Tombstone, Venom, Vermin, and Vulture. And that's the
that
end
it?
of the story. That's the
Is that it?
story in a nutshell.
Well, they 20.
So what?
It didn't even sound like it was about 20. At least I've heard of all of them.
Yeah, yeah, I guess it was just 66 and they're the only characters that were showing, and you're meant to just believe elsewhere, whatever. Which brings us to Swarm Sinister Six. Spider-Man and the students of the Jean Grey School for Higher Learning encounters the 8th incarnation of the Sinister Six, led by Swarm. Hand up if you know any of these characters. And consisting of the third 8-Ball. No?
Hand it down.
Delilah, Killer Shrike, the third Melter, and Squid. Still don't
The
know
hand is
Squid.
remaining down.
After Hellion defeated Swarm and the other members of the Sinister Six surrendered. So that's pretty much everything you need to know about the Sinister Six.
Yeah, so basically, they were a cool idea originally, and then it just hoarded it out since then.
Yeah. So I think the kind of big thing of I think this kind of works together. Well, it's interesting really because let's kick it to the film. So
Okay, look, and minor spoilers if you haven't seen, very minor spoilers if you haven't seen Spider-Man Homecoming, I think, yeah, that's what it's called.
I think most viewers have probably fell asleep at this point of the video.
Yeah.
So yeah, the second Spider-Man 2 had Doctor Octopus in it. Spider-Man 3 had Sandman in it. Then with the rebooted Amazing Spider-Man, obviously you had
The
Lizard in the first one, then you had Electro and Green Goblin, and the Rhino in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. So maybe they thought, even though they are kind of big
we got
villain,
Vulture in the new one, right?
yeah, and Vulture in the new one.
And Shocker.
Yeah, 2 incarnations of the Shocker and Matt Gargan, but is not the Scorpion yet. Obviously, in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, you had the thing of the guy with the hat go down into the Oscorp Special Operations Vault, and you had the Vulture flight wings. You had, I'm pretty sure I saw a Scorpion tail. Definitely saw the Doctor Octopus arms. And obviously you had the Rhino mechanical suit. So, and obviously they were planning to do a Sinister Six. Because it's interesting really, because if I was doing a 3 Spider-Man thing, I would probably have Venom as a villain of one of the films. I would have Green Goblin as a villain for one of the films, and I'd probably have Kingpin and then a couple of well-known enforcers as a villain of another film, and then have a spin-off which would be the Sinister Six. That way you can put those characters together and whatever, kind of like the Suicide Squad.
Well, that was, but they won't do the Kingpin in the Spider-Man movie now. They'll keep him firmly with Daredevil. But I mean, you're not wrong though. He was initially a Spider-Man villain, but I think they've firmly left him over there now. They were planning to do the Sinister Six, not just in a Spider-Man movie. They were going to do an actual Sinister Six movie before Suicide Squad even got announced, I think. But Amazing Spider-Man 2 did so naff that they couldn't do that, and they were trying to set it up in the first one. I think the first one ended, or maybe it was the second movie, I can't remember, but One of them ended with that guy in a hat approaching the lizard, talking about Spider-Man. I think about the setup was eventually going to be you get them all together, and then they do a film. And it seems to be, here's a minor spoiler for the new movie, basically that same scene with the lizard is kind of redone at the end of the new film, but with Vulture and someone else approaching him who I can't remember now.
Matt Gargan.
Matt Gargan, okay, so I assume they're probably working on behalf of Doc Ock, or maybe they'll just throw Norman Osborn in there instead.
Yeah, because in terms of this storyline, it's a kid at school. So is Octavius already Dr. Octopus? If so, you'd think stuff would get mentioned, because I mean, Matt Gargan isn't Scorpion yet. Vulture was just about Vulture, but you got to think in the comic books there's like an elderly man, and here is like what, about 50. He's getting on a bit.
Probably about 60, isn't he? I think Michael Keaton's about 60. I suppose the character can be younger. He's probably got mid-50s, something like that.
Yeah.
Because they've set up the technology thing, haven't they? They've got the Tinker in the movie, and the Vulture basically used to work for Stark and the industry, and everything's gone awry. And basically everything, I don't think it's a bad idea. Basically all technology seems to derive from Tony Stark in the Marvel Universe. So he built Ultron, and I guess every Spider-Man villain's going to be a former Stark Industries person. So was Doc Ock working at Stark? Had he already built the arms? Who knows?
Yeah, the thing is, it's interesting because they're kind of borrowing things. Now they've kind of made a deal with Spider-Man and whatever, and they're swapping ideas, obviously having a raft in there and stuff like that. It's interesting whether they can be like, yo, can we whack Oscorp in, like, or mention Oscorp or something like that in the MCU to kind of get that ball rolling. So, because really there's just Stark Industries and everything kind of revolves around there. I mean, Whiplash, he was like an employee, he was kind of working with the dad and stuff like that. So at the moment, like, Stark Industries is the centre of the universe, and there's not like Fisk Industries, there's not Oscorp, there's not, I think Roxxon's been mentioned a couple times, but there isn't anything major like
I guess that. The only alternative would be, I'm not disagreeing with you, it is all seems to be around Stark Industries, but I guess the only alternative would probably be Pym. I don't know what the company is, but you know, Hank Pym's company, he got ousted from, and Darren Cross took over, whatever, in Ant-Man. I guess that's out there somewhere.
Yeah. It's
because they're avoiding Norman Osborn, I think purposefully for now, because it's been done kind of to death, even though it was more Harry Osborn in the last one, but they got to get there eventually.
I wonder if there'll be any interaction between Tony Stark and Norman Osborn, and what do you think that'd be like? You'd love that, wouldn't you? Because I assume they would have. I mean, who knows what they're going to do, but the way I would imagine it is, I assume at one point they would have been rivals, but then surely Tony Stark making the decision to stop making weapons for Stark Industries would have an impact on that, and that would be something that Osborn could exploit. The way I look at it is like Tony Stark's more mechanical and Oscorp would be more biological and stuff like that.
That's true. And I would question whether, because I don't know how you're going to handle the Goblin thing. Will they go for a suit, or will they go for like an actual transformation? But if it's a suit, maybe it could have been like the whole thing, he's trying to make some sort of Iron Man armor, because that's the first thing I remember when I watched the first movie a long time ago now. One of the things that went through my head, besides I thought the suit looked kind of lame, was it's kind of like Iron Man, except it's got a glider. So how can they work that into it? I don't know, but they've got to bring him in. I imagine him. Yeah, that's how they'll go. It's just, will they have Norman Osborn be a part of the Sinister Six? Because traditionally he isn't, but I think you might as well just go for it.
I figure they'll probably cut their losses and have that in there, so they don't have to bring in someone like, I don't know, some other whack character. They figure, right, we've got Norman Osborn in there, we might as well whack him in there, as opposed to going to the length of bringing in someone like, I don't know, Shocker's already in there. Bringing
Yeah.
someone like, I don't know,
I think
if they want to avoid doing Rhino and stuff like that, if really it's a matter of what villain they can't get down perfectly visually for the film,
right
they just think I'll just whack Norman Osborn in there instead.
because I love Craven the Hunter. I think it's cool. I think Craven's Last Hunt is a cool comic, but it's like, can you make that work? But the dude's a hunter. Like, is that going to work for a 2-hour film? I don't think so. So maybe you take him out and you put.
I think if you did, you'd have to completely like revamp it, like really urban and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Have like a super like modern hunter and stuff like that. But then that'd be like him sitting on a computer screen, or him wearing like infrared goggles and like tracking heat signature using, I don't know, a helmet, as opposed to like sniffing and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So because they don't all have to be the lead villain of the film. They can be, the sub. Like Shocker's going to be in this one. Kind of like a supporting character. You can have the comedian easily fill that role, kind of like Mystique was in the first run of the X-Men movies.
It'd all be really. I'd have a master plan set up, and I'd have each character like serve a purpose all the way up to the main event against one guy. So I know you'd have like Peter Parker's best buddy or something like that, and it turned out they've been replaced by Chameleon, and then you'd have like, I don't know, his Aunt May get killed, but really that's an illusion by Mysterio, and you'd have it all lead up to a major confrontation or whatever.
So what you don't want is a repeat of what they did last time. Because clearly Sony had got a hard on to do this, because it's the second time in, it's not even been 5 years or so that they've tried to do it. So clearly it's something they want to do. You don't want a repeat of the Amazing Spider-Man 2, where you have Electro as the main villain of the movie, and yet he doesn't really have any effect on the plot whatsoever, and so no one wants to see him in another movie again. So you've got to be careful in how you do it, but also, like, who do you do the next movie about? Is it Doc Ock?
Yeah, because Venom's tied up at the minute. It's really because whatever character you're doing, I mean, if there's a deal going on, really that character's being introduced as part of the MCU, as a part of the Sony thing. That's why they've kept Venom for his own spin-off film. So it's like, look, let's not introduce him into the MCU. But then if you introduce Norman Osborn, that's going to be a big thing. It's like, oh, why has no one mentioned Oscorp for like 10 years? Why has Tony Stark never dropped anything? So really it's a person of who's going to fit into the MCU, even if it's only for one film. I mean, you add Vulture in there, and you add in part like working for Stark Industries and stuff like that. So really you've got to retrofit the character to fit the plot of the MCU, as opposed to something different. So there's a lot of moving parts. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Norman Osborn, that's a slippery slope. Doc Ock, I think, is a lot easier. You just do that's, you can always have doing the same as a Vulture. He's just working there as a scientist.
So I'm Sam.
I'm Matt.
And we'll see you in the next edition of the Superhero Files. For now, we're closing them. See you in the next one.